Well, good morning, good morning. My name is Alex Fernandez. I'm one of the pastors here at Cornerstone and the pastor here at the Heritage Campus. For those of you joining me here, it's hot, but it feels good. And I'm glad you're here. For those of you joining me online, I hope you have air conditioning wherever you're at. We welcome, you probably felt a little bit of a different vibe this morning in terms of the host video and some of the things that we're going to be doing this morning. We are in the middle of a series, just started last week actually, a series called Small But Mighty. And so as part of this series, and to give our volunteers in our Corner Kids area a break for the summer, during the month of July, the kids, fifth grade through kindergarten, are joining us in the service. So let's welcome them in here today. And there's lots of special things to keep you guys engaged. One of those things is these fabulous trading cards. They are one of a kind, first edition, unique, rare. People will want these, and we're giving one out each week where the characters that we're talking about in the series. If you did not get one of these last week, we talked about the boy and the feeding of the 5,000. So this card is at our guest services desk. You can pick that up. Today we have another one. If you didn't get one on the way in, raise your hand and we'll get you one before you leave here today. And then we have a really, really special way to get kids involved that I'm really nervous about. So you guys can pray for me as we get ready for that. And you'll understand when we get into it. And so last week we looked at, as I said, the story of the feeding of the 5,000. And in that story, in all of these stories, we are looking at how God uses people. And in this case, kids. In a big way to teach us a valuable lesson. And last week in the story of the 5,000, we looked at a boy who released and gave his lunch to Jesus, and it was multiplied, and it gave us an incredible lesson about generosity. And so Jesus wants us to have a childlike faith. And childlike faith is believing in God when we don't see him, and trusting in God. Today we're going to learn about when things are scary and even tough. And we have that kind of imagination when we're growing up as kids, believing in the impossible. Yet, as we grow older, doubt starts to creep in, and worry starts to occupy our minds, and anxiety starts to crush our spirit with all the things we experience, and it steals the innocence that we once had. I think you understand what I mean. And so today we're going to look at a different story. And try to get a unique perspective. And to do that, I'm going to invite the kids from our kindergarten through fifth grade to come forward we don't do this at Cornerstone normally, but in this series, we're doing a children's time. So if you are kindergarten through fifth grade, come on up here. And to entice you, of course, no children's time is complete without candy to inspire the kids to come forward. You guys will get this at the very end, trust me, but just go ahead and have a seat, like right over here. Come on up, kindergarten to fifth grade. I need about 11 kids for this thing that we're gonna do, so keep on coming up. And we're gonna learn a valuable story about courage. All right, we're gonna trust in the power of multiplication that we learned last week. As kids continue to come up. As kids are coming up, let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever had a time where you had to have courage? Or let's start off with a question. What is courage? Chad.
Something that,
never mind? Yeah. Something that you're scared to do, and you just go ahead and do it. And so where does that come from? Well, it comes from a place inside where we have courage. And to understand that, we're gonna experiment here a little bit, and we're gonna do a skit here. And to do the skit, I need some of you guys to play some roles. Okay, here's where it is. And we're gonna look at a story found in Exodus chapter 2. And I need a king. Who wants to be a king? Jed, come on, over here. Miss Beth Ann is going to help us with some props and some costumes that we found in the Corner Kids closet. So let's get the king, a pharaoh looking gear. And I also need, a young girl to be Miriam in this story. Do you want to try it? Come on with me. All right, so Beth Ann, this is going to be Miriam. And we're going to get her in a costume over here. And we need a princess. Yes, yeah, right there. All right, who doesn't want to be a princess? And we need Moses' mother. I need a mom. Would you like to play the role of the mom in the story? Okay, you're lucky you're going to participate. You didn't know how. Now this is something, did you guys practice with me? Did we rehearse this? We did not. So this is where we need prayer because we're gonna do this live, unprepared, unrehearsed reenactment of Exodus chapter 2. And so I also need, this is gonna be a unique part of the story. We have a Miriam.
No.
We lost?
Yep.
You don't wanna be, would you like to participate in the story? Come on. Yeah, this is courage right here. This is the example of courage that we're talking about. All right. For the rest of you guys, this is gonna be the easy part. 2, 4, 6 of you, perfect. Here's what I need you to do. Could you grab one end of this? And you're gonna be right here. You guys are gonna know what I'm doing here in a second. You're gonna grab the end of it right here. All right, and you're gonna grab this end right here. And you guys are gonna pull it tight. So step back. Okay, now they need 2 more of you to do the same right behind them. Could I get one of you guys to come up here? Grab one of this end. Come on up. There you go. Look at the courage in this crowd right here. Come on over here. You're gonna hold the other end. All right, and I need you two. Okay, perfect. And we're gonna grab this. And you guys are gonna do the same thing. Hold it on one end, and you're gonna hold the other end. Now you're gonna pull it tight. So pull away from each other and hold it just like this. Perfect. Perfect. You can put the card down like that. Hold it flat, a little bit higher. You guys bend down a little bit. You guys bend down. You in the front. There you go. And you guys raise yours really high. Perfect. You guys are gonna raise yours really high, like way up here. All right, now this is our water. Now do a little bit of waving. Does it look like water? Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we're ready. So hold up. We don't have a mom? I'll play the role of mom, no worries. Okay, okay.
Hi, Mom.
All right, let me see. And crowd, you guys are gonna be my sound effects. Perfect? Are we ready? All right, where's our Pharaoh? Pharaoh, come forward, stand up on the stage. All right. I'm gonna narrate kind of a paraphrase of this story and you're gonna act out, I'm gonna tell you what to do. Scene 1, everybody can do a clap. 1, 2, 3. All right, here we go. Pharaoh gave an order. He was angry. Give me some angry eyebrows. There we go, and some finger pointing. And he gave a new law. He said, every Hebrew boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile, point to the river, but let every girl live. Now, there was a woman, and she became pregnant. Work with me, guys. And she had a baby. And when she heard the decree, she was very scared. Everybody give me a gasp. Oh, yes, perfect. And she hid the baby in a basket. Hearing the decree, she placed the baby in the river. Now you guys lift up the water. Now wave it a little bit. And I need the princess to come over here. Perfect. Everybody, let's give a hand to the princess. All right. Now the princess went down by the water because she was going to take a bath, and the mother placed the baby in a basket. Raise up your water. Raise it up. Higher. Wave it around. Wave yours. There we go. Give me whooshing sound. Water. Shh. Perfect. And the water floated down the river. And when the princess saw the basket, she went and grabbed the basket and took it. And noticed that there was a baby crying in the basket. Give me some crying baby noise. Perfect. Now Miriam, Moses' sister, was standing at a distance watching what was happening. And when she saw the princess pick up the baby, she went over to the princess. She walked around the river. It was a long journey. And she asked the princess, "Do you want one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby and take care of him until he's old enough?" And the princess thought it was a good idea and said yes. So she gave his sister the baby, and she brought it to her mother. And the mother took care of the baby until he was old enough. And when she gave the boy back to her sister, who brought it back to the princess. And the princess was thankful. Give me a big smile. And she said, "I'm going to name him Moses because I drew him out of the water." End scene. All right. Okay. Great job, everyone. Let's have a seat again. Thank you. You guys were awesome. What courage you guys showed for getting involved in my scary conquest right there. All right, let me ask you guys a couple questions. Now, the card you got today says at the top, the brave one. So we're talking about courage today. And so I asked you in the beginning, what is courage? And one of you said, when something is scary, you do it anyway. So let me read to you the actual words from this story right here, and listen closely. See how close we got it with our play. It says this. At the end of Exodus chapter 1, it says, Pharaoh gave an order to all the people. Every Hebrew boy that is born, you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar. Then placing the child in it, and she put it in among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. When she opened it and saw the baby, he was crying, and she felt sorry for him. She said, "This is one of the Hebrew babies." Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" And the princess said, "Yes, go." So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him, and I will pay you for it." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. And when the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Now, when you hear that story, what was scary in that story, do you think? There's probably more than one thing. The baby in the waves of the water? Of course, that would be scary. What else is scary in the story, do you think? What did Pharaoh say in the beginning? All baby boys should be thrown in the river. Now, who do you think showed courage in this story?
The sister.
The sister? Anybody else show courage? Probably his mom showed courage. And what you know about God, how does God help us when we're scared? What do you think? That's a big question, isn't it? Well, that's what we're going to learn about today. Because courage is trusting God even when we're doing something scary. So you nailed it. And so to remind us of this story, I've got some starbursts up here for you. Come on up. Because Miriam had a burst of courage that we're going to learn from today. Let's hear it for the kids this morning. You got 2 because you're double good. All right. That went just as I thought. All right. Well, normally when we hear that story, the focus of the story is on Moses. But today the focus is on somebody else, and you probably can guess who it is. It's on his sister, Miriam. Now, to understand who Miriam is, she is the older sister of Moses. We're not sure her exact age, but scholars say that she's somewhere around 7 or 8 years old in the story. She's not a soldier. She doesn't have an important title. She doesn't have any power in the story. She's not even a grown-up, but she has something that we can learn from, and it's courage. And not just courage, but faith-filled courage. To give you a little context, and by the way, we're having communion at the end of the service, and so if you're watching online, go ahead and grab any elements that you might have, juice and bread or water and crackers, whatever you have available. And if you don't know what this means or what communion is, I'll be setting that up at the very end. We invite you to participate in that if you're willing. To give you a little context about what's happening in this story, the Israelite people have been in captivity for somewhere around 350 years. That's the total time that they were in captivity, maybe up to 400 years. And this goes all the way back, even though we're in the book of Exodus, this goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. At the end of the book of Genesis, we have a man named Jacob who has 12 sons. He's renamed Israel, and the 12 tribes of Israel are born, and they become this great nation. And so out of these 12 tribes, over the generations, they grow in number to the hundreds of thousands. And so the Pharaoh at the end of the book of Genesis is not the same Pharaoh, because we are generations and generations past that in the book of Exodus. But the Pharaoh looks out at the land and sees how great in number that the Israelites have grown to. And he's worried because he believes they could be a threat. In fact, he says this in Exodus chapter 1, verse 8. He says, "Then a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came to power in Egypt. And he said, 'Look,' he said to the people, 'the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave our country.' And so he orders his slave masters to be cruel to the Israelite people. He puts them to harsh work, and they treat them cruelly. And over that time, what's unexpectedly happening is, because of that, they start to multiply even more in number. And Pharaoh becomes very angry. And so this is how Exodus chapter 1 concludes. It says, "Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. 'Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live.'" So that's the context of the story. Pharaoh is worried about his kingdom. The Israelites have grown in number. He's trying to deal with them harshly. They keep multiplying. And so he issues a decree to stop their multiplication by the killing of every Hebrew boy that is born. This is a dark time for the Israelite people, a time of great fear. And in this time, Moses is born in the middle of this story. And as you heard in the story, and as portrayed by me in the story, his mother hid the baby when he was born. And out of desperation and trust, she places him into a basket and into the river, and enter Miriam into the story. A young girl watching at a distance, and when she hears her brother cries, what does she do? She steps forward. She approaches the princess, a person who had the power to take her brother's life, a person who had the authority to take her very own life, and instead of the running away, she does this. She runs up to the princess in verse 7 and says, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" It's a small sentence, but it's a mighty move that teaches us this lesson today. Faith-filled courage is stepping towards God when fear says step back. There's something important layered underneath that statement that's often overlooked or glazed over. And it's that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing faith in the middle of that fear. In the story, Miriam did not know what the princess would say or do. She could have been punished. She could have created more trouble for her parents. As the princess inquired, whose baby is this? Who did not follow my father's decree? And she stepped forward anyway. And so a question for all of us to ponder is, how often when we face situations that are scary, where fear tells us to shrink back, do we? Maybe it's fear about what people think of us. Maybe it's fear about doing the right thing. Perhaps it's fear of the unknown, or fear of the dreaded bad news that we just got. All of us face fear at some point. And when fear comes knocking at our door, the natural step that we want to take is to step back or to fix it. But when a problem is too big, when we can't snap our fingers and make it go away, often we retreat from God or even blame God. Over the last few months, I have to say that I was, and I've shared this openly, that I was in a season of having a lot of questions from God. As my daughter was diagnosed with cancer in November of last year, I've counted the months recently, and to understand how long I've been sitting in something like that, it's been 8 months. And I know people in the crowd, as I look out at you and I see some of your stories come to mind, I know many of you have been walking with fear or anxiety or stress or depression for many, many years. One of my favorite sayings is this. It's not favorite because I love it. It's favorite because it's true. And this one holds true for me. As a parent, I think you're only as happy as your saddest child. And over the last 8 months, I know that my daughter has not been in a happy place. And I have worn that on my shoulders and on my sleeves. It's been a time where I've actually questioned God, His presence, His care. It's in those times when you're facing that kind of fear of the unknown or the bad news or the things that are out of your control that we often cave and we shrink. Fear has not been absent in my story. And whatever you're going through, I know it's not absent in yours. Fear in my story was present. Fear in my story was real. Fear in my story was powerful. And it's in those moments where we can either retreat from our faith or we can step into our faith. It reminds me of something Jesus said in John chapter 16. And in this scene, he's talking to his disciples about the future. He's laying out all the things that are going to happen to him, and he's painting a very scary picture about the tough road that they're going to have ahead and all the things that could happen and will happen to him. And he says these words that are often misunderstood, I think. He says to them, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And when I've heard people interpret that verse, when I've heard some pastors talk about that, sometimes it's paraphrased like this. Jesus came and he suffered agony and he suffered even death on the cross. But we know that Jesus overcame death and rose from the grave. And not only did he rise from the grave, he overcame the world. And so our future is secure. And because of that, don't live in fear. And I think that interpretation and that mindset does two things. I think it ignores reality. that we will face things in this world that are hard and that are scary. It ignores the real emotion of fear that is not sin, that is present. And it oversimplifies, I think, what Jesus is saying and what Jesus is offering in that text. Often when we look at that verse, is it still up there? Mark, could you put it back up? Often when we look at that verse, we look at two parts of that. We look at that verse and we say, Jesus said, in this world we will have trouble. And so Jesus acknowledges that, and we understand that piece of it. And we're like, yeah, Jesus understands the world that I live in. And then we focus on the last part. It says, but take heart, I've overcome the world. But what we often miss is what's right before that in the text. Because Jesus says, I've told you these things. He's telling us these things so that in me you will have peace. In other words, Jesus is saying in this text, life is hard. Life is messy. Life is scary. But because I've overcome the world, you can take a step towards me. In the middle of that, come to me, and you will find peace. It's not a text about the future and feeling our future is secure and ignoring all the realities of life. It's a text about the present, of what we should do and can do in those hours of fear and anxiety and stress, that we can take a step towards God, that we don't need to run away from our faith, but that's the time to lean into our faith, to take courage. I think we often think that courage is about action, like running into battle or standing up to a bully if you're a kid. But some of the most courageous things you might do can be really quiet. Trusting God when you don't have all the answers. Worshiping God when all you feel is pain. Going to God in prayer when all you want to do is hide. That's faith-filled courage. And how does that happen? Where does that come from? I think it happens over time. It's building a foundation of faith-filled trust that continues to grow over time. That's the difference between bravery and courage. Bravery is that instant, that moment in response to danger or a challenge that you have a burst of bravery in that moment to stand up and step forward. Anybody can be brave, but courage is the mental strength to persevere into and against the unknown. And spirit-filled courage is that faith-filled strength to step forward towards God when every bit of our physical body says to step back. I think back to my story over the last few months. Hours of questioning the reality of God, the presence of God. Thinking about our situation as a family and trying to understand where is this all going and why aren't things being resolved? And the only thing I could do in those hours was lean into God. To go to God in prayer. To have people petition on my behalf. My best friend is sitting in the back row over there visiting here today. And he doesn't know this, but in my hour of greatest need, I always call him for prayer. And it was on the morning where Maya had her surgery that my phone rang. And it was his voice and the voice of God who prayed peace in the hour of the unknown. I know that when he speaks, God is speaking through him. And it encourages my soul. It doesn't change my situation in the moment. It doesn't make my problems go away, but it reminds me how faith-filled courage tells me to lean into God when everything in me tells me I should step back. There's something about an imagination of a child that believes the impossible that I talked about earlier that we somehow lose. It's the difference between childlike faith and childish faith. Childish faith wilts away when things get hard. Childish faith blows away in the wind. But childlike faith trusts God when logic tells you you shouldn't. And the challenge that most of us face is that we have been battered by the world. We have been beaten down with disappointment. We have suffered heartache. And over time, we can become cynical and jaded. And if we have childish faith, our faith blows away in the wind. But if we have childlike faith, we lean into our faith because that's all we've got left. If we've learned anything over the last 2 weeks, is that when we step into action, God responds. We look at the story of the boy who gave up his lunch, his sack lunch. It did not multiply until he released it into God's hands. And in this story, where it appears no miracle is going to happen, where it appears no solution is present, it is Miriam who has faith-filled courage to step forward. And it's then that the most improbable and unlikely scenario takes place. Here's how it concludes in Exodus chapter 2, verse 9. It says this: "The princess said, 'Yes, go,' she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, 'Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you.'" We'll come back to that in a second. So the woman took the baby and nursed him, and when the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Can I say miracle, anyone? 3 things happened in that story. Did you see it? When Miriam stepped forward in faith, her brother was saved. Of all people, his mother gets to nurse him and care for him during that special time. We don't know how long that is. Some estimate a few months, some estimate a few years. But his mother gets to keep the bond that she has with her child. And by the way, she got paid for it. This is the first side hustle ever recorded in history right here. His mom gets paid to take care of her own child. Don't tell me how God can't answer my prayers. And it all happened because a faith-filled girl stepped forward into fear. Faith-filled courage is stepping towards God when fear says, step back. And so I have just a question for you here this morning as we close. What fear is telling you to step back right now? And I know when we do messages like this, in a room like this, and so many people watching online, that question has a broad stroke because we all face something different. And I don't want to just say, just go to God in prayer or just, step forward, encourage. We want to be a church that resources you and helps you during those hard times. And so if you are in need, understand that we have a prayer and care team. They're not only here to listen to the prayers. You can put a prayer request on our website. You can fill out a comment card and understand that there are people within the church who their spiritual calling is to pray on your behalf and petition God in your name. And there's an entire care team that if you're going through something hard, we'll show up at your door and we'll send cards of encouragement and we'll do things to lift you up if you don't have people around you. If your fear is around money, we offer free financial counseling. We have people who walk with people who do this on a professional basis, who will help sit down with you and go over your finances. And if you don't have any margin, we'll help coach you on how to get some structure and margin in your life so that you don't feel like you're drowning. Your problem may not disappear overnight, but it's a step to help you in the right direction. And so many people right now in this world are drowning in money fear. So if that's a need for you, understand we have resources for that. If there's something tormenting you, we have an entire network of counselors at Cornerstone that we can connect with you to help you process what's going on the inside. Mental health was such a taboo subject when I was growing up, but it is a real problem that people struggle with. And so if you need help in your marriage, in your personal journey, understand that those resources are available. We have an entire ministry for support groups, for the hard times that people walk in life. There's one that's here at the Heritage Hill campus for infertility. If you've suffered miscarriage, if you're struggling having a baby, if you've had disappointment after disappointment, looking at Carly over here, she's led this group. Nick right behind me, he's led this group. If you're struggling with grief because of loss and it's crushing you, there's a grief support group, Alcoholics Anonymous support group. There's so many support groups here at Cornerstone. I hope you step forward. And if you just need somebody to walk by you, to listen, we have a Stevens ministry. People right here in the church who would train up as lay leaders, who won't solve your problems, but who will stand with you and walk with you, to listen to you, to help encourage you. There's so many resources that we pour into this because it's that important. So what fear is telling you to step back, and how is God inviting you to step forward? It might be as simple as a hard conversation that you need to have. It might be as big a fear as one of the ones I just mentioned, or it might be a soul-crushing experience that you're dealing with right now and you don't know where to turn. Courage is trusting God even when things are scary. So today we're going to end with a time of communion. If you're not familiar with communion, communion is a sacrament that we celebrate. Sacrament simply means sacred thing. And it represents what Jesus did for us on the cross. The juice represents the blood that was shed. The bread represents his body that was broken. And Jesus commands us as followers to repeat this sacrament, to remind ourselves in the difficulty of this world, in the world that he says we will have trouble in, to remind us of who we are and whose we are, so that we may have courage in our hearts to step forward when life gets hard. And so we have several different ways you can participate. We're going to have communion servers come forward. Understand that at Cornerstone, you don't need to be a member. We celebrate what we call an open table. And so if you profess yourself to be a believer in Jesus Christ, or want to seek that, or want to do this, you are welcome to come forward. There's a few different options you have. Communion servers will have bread, and they will offer you bread. And then we have some juice here, and you're going to dip it in the cup. You're not going to dunk it. If your knuckles went too far, you're just going to dip it. It's not the amount of juice, it's the representation. If that's not for you, we have some communion cups that have a wafer and juice. And if you have a gluten allergy, there's some up here that are gluten-free, and you're welcome to participate on that. And so today, may a step forward be a step forward in faith. That no matter what you face, whatever difficulty is in front of you, understand that Jesus says, come step towards me and I will give you peace. Your problem may not go away, but he promises he will be with you. He will put people around you. He will encourage you when you don't have strength. He will help you get up when you don't want to. And he will not leave you abandoned. Because it was on the night that Jesus was betrayed that he gave himself up, and he had one final meal with his closest friends. And it was during that meal that he took the bread off the table, lifted it up, broke it, and gave thanks and said, this is my body broken and given to you. Take and eat. And it was likewise later in the meal that he took the juice off the table and he lifted it up. And he said, this is my blood of the new covenant poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. As long as you gather, take, drink, remember, and believe. So would you pray with me right now? And so, Father God, we come before you in this hour. Lord, unknown what people are facing in this room, but Lord, I know that you understand every circumstance and every situation. Lord, I believe you are in every one of those. And so if there are hearts that are weary in this place, if there are minds that have grown tired, if there are bodies that are trembling right now because of what they're facing, Lord, may they feel your peace right here in this hour, if only for just a moment. Lord, there's no fear that is too small. if it crushes our spirit and it stops us from coming to you. And so, Lord, I just pray over each and every person here this morning that no matter what they're facing, no matter what they may face in the future, Lord, may the story here, as simple as it is, of a young child who stepped forward in faith in a scary situation, teach us that stepping forward is all it takes for you to respond. So as we lean into you, God, may you put people around us to lift us up. May you encourage our hearts. May the peace beyond understanding overwhelm us. And may we proclaim the goodness of your name. We believe you came. We believe you died. We believe you rose. We believe you are coming again. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.